There it is.
Bingo.
That's sweet. Yeah, we might be able to draw that. I put that on my Zoom. It was like a church choir meeting at my parents' church, and everybody, and like, you know, my mom was singing in the choir, and I needed to put something up so like all these random people. I had no idea what Zoom was at that time. It was interesting though. Anyway, it made it up there. Maybe we can do some birds. I don't know what kind of bird it is though. I was super into birds.
May we see a picture of it?
It's Kristen's profile picture. Tech support. It's tech support's profile. Okay, let's do this. So like I said, this is from Starry Night. I zoomed in on it in my photo, and it's just going to be like a quick warm up. Try to be super in tune with the line weight. So basically we have to get a circle. So it's a circle within a circle, and the circle that's on the inside is kind of more an oval. And what I love about this is that it's somewhat anomalous, meaning like it's an anomaly. Like I don't think there are, like, even if the moon were to eclipse the sun, for a long time I thought it was going to eclipse, like this inner part was the moon eclipsing the sun, and then it was actually a daytime picture. But I don't think that's what it is. But this is also not what a crescent moon looks like either. So it's weird. I'm just telling you, it's just a weird painting, drawing for painting. All right, so I'm going to get I drew my thin, silhouette of the moon. And then this left side has some heavier marks. So it's almost like an excuse for drawing something like super simple, but then being really fine-tuned with where the light lines are and where the dark lines are, since there's not much to it. So this whole left side from basically like 11 o'clock, maybe like 10:30, 11, all the way down to 6:30.
I was thinking more like 6:30.
6:33.
6:30. Yes. Yeah.
And then you get a dark.
Wait, what did you use to make that circle?
What about it?
What did you use?
Did you use anything to make that circle?
No, I'm just freehanding it. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, you can sit, even if you had nothing to draw, even if you had absolutely no idea what it is you're going to draw, you could sit down on a sheet of paper. I had a teacher in college, really talented painter. Before she did anything, she sat down and did a whole page of circles. She put a dot in the middle. So she would put a dot and then do a circle around the dot. And she would just practice her circles, like big circles, small circles.
They're actually
that's how she warmed up.
A circle with a dot in it. Look.
You think there's a dot in there?
No, I'll show you 1 minute.
You can annotate.
All right. The annotate button is not showing up.
I didn't change it. I usually
change
it.
It only works for
Max or something.
Are you sharing your screen?
The host?
Yeah, I don't see an annotate button.
Hey, can you use your words though? Can you just describe?
Oh, he's disabled it. Yeah, he's disabled it. It's I think it may be only on iPad, but he's disabled it. I'm on iPad right now.
If you
and there's no annotate button.
If you look at the moon, and let's say there's 6 at the bottom.
Yeah, 6.
Go a little down and all the way across, like right here. So go to where 6 would be, like a little bit down and across to the left.
Like here?
No, go down.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. Stop. Mm-hmm. Now go to the left.
Mm-hmm.
More.
Oh, this one.
Yes, that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, good call. I think that is a star, actually.
I agree.
I mean, we can look at the whole composition in a second. All right, so here comes I'm gonna do the inner circle. I may have to lighten some lines. The thinnest part is, basically between, I would say like 1 o'clock and 2:30. So I'm gonna keep that line untouched. And then it's almost like he tried to make a circle, but then it's just like his hand like didn't allow it. I guess that's how he got his crescent moon. The left side of the inner circle. So the very top, 12 o'clock, and then maybe, 11 to 9 is darker. It's interesting when you do like a simple drawing, but then really tune your line weight. All on the inside, he's using pen. Look at how there's these light hatch marks, that seem to be forming a, almost like an inner spiral. And I do think he's anticipating his brush strokes. There's like a couple layers, 1, 2, 3 along the bottom. It's like, and these lines could be him, attempting to find the right one.
So what makes you say that these are, did you say anticipation of brush strokes?
Yeah. So after we do, I guess I think I can show you now. If I can, I have the reproduction of the painting. Can you guys see that one? I don't think this is the dark one. I had a better reproduction. Who's out of here? Where did that go?
That's okay. I believe you.
No, I know. I just want here's a good one. It is a different version. All right. So that was the painting. So,
Van Gogh can surely make his sky glow.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then with the reproduction of the drawing, so just like if you compare the drawing here, and then I'll even zoom out a little bit. Hold on, let's just finish this. Let's just finish this moon and the drawing of the moon, and then we'll look at the whole thing. And maybe we'll even sketch it. There's not that much to it. There's just some gentle lines. And then I suppose we could start to think about, I zoom out even further. So if there's going to be a glow, you can anticipate these lighter lines, these light hatch marks. And then the sky gets darker as it gets away from the sun. Not the sun, excuse me, the moon. Now the other crazy thing about this is that the line that's on my phone right here with the reference, that's the edge of the picture. So like there's nothing more. So like if I had to draw this line, this is the edge of the paper. So we have no other references. Same with the top. The top is the edge. So this moon really occupies the top right-hand corner of the picture, severely. So I'm just going to use these little hatch marks. It makes me nervous because I don't have the ability to zoom in closer. And I don't want to mess with the camera.
You mean to enlarge what we're looking at on screen?
Yeah. Yeah. And like this on my drawing, see how this line is crooked? It like looks angled. It's straight on my page. So maybe if I...
What I noticed is that the glow, like, it's pretty cool. It's literally, the glow is in the shape of the actual, like, shadow. I know the shadow, like the night shadow, is in the same shape as a crescent moon. So literally just make a C and then you have your shadow.
So which part are you calling the shadow?
Let me look at my camera. I think this like shadow part, the black,
the like the dark of the night.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the night sky is painted, you know, so because it's almost like he's painting the glow by omission. So by not putting dark marks on a white page, he's creating this like glow from the moon. And so you have to lay in dark marks to represent the dark of the night. And he's using these radiating lines out from it. And if you see how it intersects here with the, you know, if I zoom in here on the, that star is, you know, you have the dot and then you build out from there as well. And so you can see the night sky kind of overlaps the edge of the night sky from the star and the edge of the night sky from the moon. They overlap in this very narrow channel. That's also kind of cool. What if I move this over?
So I take it he was right-handed.
Yeah, Van Gogh was definitely right-handed. So now I'm going to build a little glow, like a little radiating lines around the star. And that's a kind of cool thing too, is that the stars at night twinkle. I don't know if you know that, like the stars twinkle and planets don't. That's how you can tell a planet, is that it doesn't have a twinkle to it. Like Mars and Venus, and I think you can see Neptune. You definitely see Mars and Venus. You definitely see Saturn. But they don't twinkle. They're a light source, but don't have any movement to it, whereas the stars do. Cool. So everything from a certain distance away from the light source, whether it be it the star or the moon, the lines start to get darker. And in our case, you know, therefore they get more plentiful. Sweet. All right, so maybe 30-second warning on this bad boy. I'm sure, maybe everybody's done. Stacy, how did you do? Are you finished?
I am perhaps as finished as I will be. My paper is a bit odd.
Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna make an effort. I'm gonna make an effort on this screen, but it's weird because it doesn't my phone doesn't fit that well in the rectangle. I think it's gonna take a little getting used to, so please bear with me.
It's acid-free paper. I've never seen paper like this though.
The one that you're working on?
Yeah, it's not. It's almost translucent in some areas. It's not completely opaque.
Is it actually?
So I think it's really interesting that you can see on Van Gogh's moon that he used so many straight lines to achieve the curvature.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, pointillism was derived from a concepts by this guy Schreville about 200 years before Impressionism even happened. So when you think about points like dots, and Van Gogh is post-impressionist, the concepts of different colors next to each other, creating new colors. So imagine if you had like blue thread and yellow thread combined, when you stand back, become green thread. That's like the whole that's the whole theory behind pointillism, is that separate color notes seen from a distance create new colors. And so when Van Gogh makes a brushstroke, in a sense, he's making stitches, almost like stitches in fabric or embroidery. And so when you're making these marks, even though there's no color, you can still think about them as stitches. Okay. Let's have a look at the whole thing. And then I did a video today on, we have this like TikTok channel. And what I was describing on the TikTok was that this is, in fact, Starry Night. It's like at MoMA, Museum of Modern Art in New York. This is the drawing of it. The painting is, in that collection as well. And I don't know if some of you have probably seen this, this little caveat before. But as you can tell, these look like, to me, I always saw these like rushing waves in the sky as clouds, almost like turbulent clouds that were like unsettled. And like there was like kind of like an active, weather pattern happening. And again, I wish I could zoom in on this thing, but you've got these columns coming from chimneys in the house. So in the painting, you have the town, and there's houses, and then there's a church. There's some houses back here. You can actually see the lights. The whole the piece is mostly blue and greens and yellows, and it's keyed in the red. There's this red roof here. But there's no chimneys, and there's no smoke coming up from the chimneys. So I don't know if it didn't work or it didn't translate well into the painting, but in the drawing, he has 3 chimneys and a church spire. And in the painting, all he's got is a church spire. So you see these like, these very curving elements as you'd think they'd be clouds. But really, in actuality, what they are is it's actually a very still night. It's actually a very still, cloudless night. So there's no clouds at all. And there's this smoke that's coming up. If you've ever like, put out a candle in a room that's, that's like with no windows open or whatever, like the smoke comes up and then, it starts to like diffuse, and it can be this like almost ribbon-like quality, as it starts to like, weave away and actually expand. So you've got these, like dense columns of smoke. They're all joining, and then they're slowly kind of diffused out of the picture, rolling out of the picture, rather than the wall, like in the painting where it feels like the waves are crashing into the scene. It's actually the opposite. It's actually moving out. Anyway, there's you actually see too that the scale of the moon in this picture, the scale gets a lot smaller, and I guess it's probably because the color intensity of the yellow is so bold and so bright, the yellow and the yellow orange, that here in the drawing he needed like the magnitude of the size of the circle to like hold the same presence, but because there's no color, the moon, in order to have that same impact, needed to be larger, where here the yellow has such a bold influence on the whole picture that I think he decided he could probably make it a little bit smaller. It's interesting though. I mean, it's one of those like paintings that you can just go back to year after year, and it's always interesting. Total masterpiece. other moments, we're not gonna go into it here, but things that he's changed in the painting to the drawing, he's got these prism roofs here, whereas he's got these curving mansard roofs, you know, in the original. And what was the other thing? Is the size and the shape of the moon really changed a lot. So the fact that there's no chimneys and there's no columns of smoke, it's like such an important aspect of like what makes the painting that I can't believe you left it out. It's actually kind of one of those like great mysteries in art. So, okay. So does anybody have any questions on that? That was kind of like more of an explanation than it was even a drawing, but at least, you know, at least we got the moon in there. It's a nice moon on a full moon. All right. So Stacy actually did send over a couple really beautiful pictures that I wanted to sketch. And Jack, I'll see if I can find that little songbird. But let's see. In the meantime, I've got this hawk, and I'm not exactly sure what kind of hawk it is or whether it's an eagle. But let's see what we can do with it. This is so strange that it's not larger. Stacy, how big on the screen is it for you? And you're muted, by the way.
Maybe 3 by 4.
Does it feel bigger or smaller than previous?
Then the Van Gogh, smaller.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just don't know. I think it's going to turn the screen down too. I'm going to Charlie back in here. I don't think we can do it. I don't think this thing is going to work. Unless I get a control arm.
Starting with the beak.
Down. What's that?
I'm starting with the top of the beak.
Are you saying that it's simply too small, Trevor?
Yeah, I don't think it's big enough to work off of.
Well, on this end, it's okay, and there's plenty of room for you to work side by side, parallel to it. It's simply it doesn't appear flat. Like the top part of the bird's head is larger. Well, you can see it maybe with the phone. It's angled such that the bottom of the phone is more narrow than the top.
Yeah. Guys, I think I'm gonna switch over. I can't take it anymore. Gotta give me a minute.
You can't take what?
I can't take the look of my the camera.
I started with my beak.
Yes, you did. How about that? You're a step ahead. Would anyone like to share their moon from Starry Night while Mr. Twist is switching over to his tripod?
I just showed mine.
Yep, I got that. Thank you so much.
Mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I also did like the rest of the piece somewhat.
Jack, hold that little down and freeze it. There you go. Whoop, hold on. I didn't get that.
You didn't? Okay.
No. A little closer to you, just a little bit closer to you, and freeze. Got it. Thank you.
All right,
Wow, you did a lot in what I thought was a short period of time. Okay, so let's see that one again. I mean, your next drawing. I don't know why yours isn't coming up again, Jack. Let me try that. One sec.
Wait, did you get it?
I got the first one, Starry Night, but not the second one.
What first one? And what's the second one?
I don't know. I thought you put something up that was
oh no, that was
building.
Just, no, that was just a piece of art I did before. It was just
okay.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm like severely apologize for this. We are a go now. Now I was so hoping that I'd be able to get rid of all these like decals on the side. I can't stand all that stuff, but if I can't zoom in and zoom out, like, what are we gonna do? Okay, well, I typically would have started with the eyes, but I think since we already have like a little bit of a go started, maybe we will start with the beak. I've got this style of drawing that has been kind of exciting lately. I've been employing it mainly for drawing from your imagination. So like if you don't know where the whole picture's going, like kind of commit to one item, like one aspect, and then you can kind of build the rest of the piece around that one aspect. And for here, I think I'm going to commit to this nostril. I love like that it's an oval, and you know, I feel like I can manage like a medium-sized oval. So I'm just gonna do that, and it's like an oval kind of sees from the side. I think I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller than I normally would, just so it fits on my screen. And then around that, you can actually see part of the fur that is, you know, I guess they're technically feathers, but they're like spokey feathers that come really close to the edge. In fact, I think some of those hairs, you know, might be overlapping that oval. So I've kind of like committed to this oval and some of this hair. So from here, you'd think when you look at a bird, at least when I look at a bird, I'm thinking like the beak, the yellow is so bold that the whole thing is yellow, but it's actually not. At least this one's not. You have like kind of the area around the nostril, which is yellow. And then you have like the beak portion, which comes out. It's like a, you know, kind of a semicircle. It reminds me of El Capitan almost in the Yellowstone. So I'm going to kind of draw around my yellow shape. And in my mind, at least, I'm going to say that's yellow. Whether I use a colored pencil to indicate it, or I just put like a Y in here. This is kind of like the beginnings of the arc of the top of this beak. And there are these black feathers that are on its edge, both on the side that we're drawing and on the far side, which I think is going to be very helpful too. So these black hairs, they almost feel like eyelashes, you know, coming beyond. Sorry about that bell, y'all. Okay, we've got all these feathers coming up on like the space between the eyes, leading up the forehead and into the back. Let's not do that just yet. Let's like continue on with, you know, aspects that like run into the other. Like the nostril was in almost like on the island of the yellow, and then the yellow is touching like this gray curve of El Capitan. So I'm going to come forward, and I don't know how you want to like see it, but it's like a curving mountain. edge. And then that's going to come into a tip. We want the tip to be sharp, but the front is straight and the bottom is a little bit round. So I know that when you look at it, and I'll zoom in just for the time being, like it does come sharp, but it has a rounded edge. That's it.
It does indeed.
It's subtle, but it's round. Sort of come up the inside of the beak. And the inside of the beak is what gives us the mouth. So it's the separation between the top beak and the bottom beak. And it looks almost like he's got lips. Do you see how like the bottom beak like squeezes out? It like pinches out almost like there's a bottom lip. Now, I don't know if that's loose skin or if that's hard cartilage. Whenever I think about the beak of a bird, I imagine that it is cartilage. Let's just try it. So we're going to curve concave up, and then it swells under, convex, concave up, and then we're going to lean into a long, thin frown. And then right when you think that that frown is going to be completely sad, it kicks up at the end, like a little teeny smile. That's hilarious. All right, so we got the separation between the upper beak and the lower beak. And the upper part of the beak is going to be defined by the feathers. So when we started those feathers up by the nostril, let's bring those thin, wiry feathers down to help separate the beak from the, I guess you would call it a cheek. But it's basically the space between the nostril and the eye. I'm charting this like kind of no man's land in between the nostril and the tear duct. There's kind of like a clear line of sight. You can almost see how there's a connection between the nostril and that tear duct. You know, so if I pull this nostril and I follow this kind of line up, I can anticipate where the triangle of that tear duct is going to be. But I feel like that's still for later. All right, so we've got the fur on the upper lip, and then let's curl this around and we will see the bottom lip of that beak. I want to use the fur and the feathers to define it. I think you can actually see the lower jaw. I don't know if it's a jaw or it's an actual lower lip, but it's this groove that's underneath here. And then yes, there is fur that comes out of it or feathers that come out of it.
Yeah, you know, excuse me.
No, what's up?
No, I was simply going to say that just a minute ago, the lines, the mark making of the fur was very much to me like the mark making in Van Gogh.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Like the feathers happening and kind of curving, like groups of,
yeah,
3 or 4 hatches. And trust me, we're going to need a lot of marks for these feathers. And, we're going to have these dark centers or these light, the fanning, but we're not quite there yet. We've got the upper beak. And then we've got this lower beak, and the lower beak creates almost a 90-degree angle to the point, the angled point of our dark upper beak. So if this is the dark upper beak, the lower one is going to be, this is vertical, and then the lower jaw is perpendicular. And that lower jaw disappears into, hold on a second, guys. I want to make sure everybody's in the room. Okay, yeah, we're all in here. Good. The bottom of the lower jaw or the lower beak disappears into the fur. And I keep saying fur because those don't look like feathers to me. It actually looks like stubble or like whiskers, not stubble, but more like whiskers. Not that there's not feathers. I mean, the feathers begin, really soon after those whiskers, but the whiskers are prominent, man. And they're very thin lines, very thin, very delicate lines. All right, let's do the eye. That's the fun part. And then we'll add the feathers. The feathers are going to go from the whiskers on either side of the beak. It's going to go run up the forehead like a mohawk. Then we're going to have some come down the chin, like it's a goatee or a beard. And then it's going to, the colors of the feathers actually change as it enters into the neck and the breast. But the fun part is going to be the eye. So when I moved this angle from the nostril to the tear duct, I put in this triangle, and the triangle that I was placing in my mind was this black triangle right here. So the black triangle is actually the edge of the eyeball, the edge of the iris. And I might have made it too big. That's okay. And then the eyes have a black rim around them. And because I'm using dark marks on light paper, I don't think it's that unreasonable to go for that black outline around the iris and try to get that shape. Now, we're anticipating the yellow eyelid that goes above and below. We're anticipating the pupil and then the highlight. Every eye, no matter what it is, has a tear duct, has a pupil, has an iris, and has an eye, and has a highlight. And the highlight reflects the light source. And here you can tell that the bird is inside because you can see a 90-degree turn right here at the, there's an edge. It's a rectangle, basically. So this bird is being photographed inside, where it's an actual, somebody owns the bird, it's their pet, or whether it's at the zoo, like who knows. But the shape of the highlight tells you the light source and then also tells you that it's inside. All right, dark outline. Even though it's not technically a tear duct, where the upper eyelid and the lower eyelid meet in the corner on the backside, the black outline does get a little bit larger. Man, I really wish that I used some yellow right now. Should I? Would that be bad? I think it'd be helpful.
I love the shadow in the eye.
Well, I can't believe that the eye color itself is so like gray. It really mimics the color of those feathers. It's really wild.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what I was going to say is that I use these colored pencils to prop up my tripod from before. So I wasn't really planning on using them, but there's this really golden rim that goes around the outside of our of the eyeball, and that's the eyelid. So now that is surrounded, the moat, this moat of yellow, is surrounded by dark whiskers. We'll call them whiskers. And it really makes that gold stand out. Man, that's awesome.
I did not make my eye large enough. Oh, well.
Right. Yeah, it's actually okay. I mean, I may have made my eye too big. Wow. Jack, nice work, dude. Will you show that again? So Stacey,
Let's take a peek, Jack.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just fixing the head because it looks like it's really big. Hold on. I'm just fixing the head.
Sure.
I've noticed it has like a really slanted head.
Yeah, the angle of the beak is really steep. Not that you have to make it that way, just from this angle, it's kind of steep like that. The last thing I was going to say is before I even put in the pupil, I want to put in the highlight on the eye so that I can kind of protect it. And Jack, that would have been helpful. Not that yours is not a stellar drawing, it really is. But by putting in this little rectangle window,
I have the highlight actually. It's just really small.
Yeah, actually I can see it now. Yeah, it's in there. Oh wow, yeah, nice. So your highlight can get diffused, into the gray of the upper eyelid that's in shadow, and that gray, will have a separation from the dark rim around the eye. It's amazing. Okay, cool. So there's my pupil. My pupil is being kind of cropped by the highlight, and then I want to try and make a nice gray, some kind of gray texture for the iris. When we think about irises, we think about brown, we think about green and blue, and mostly those are the colors. I mean, you can get fake ones. Nice, Xavier, good job.
Hold that up again, Xavier.
The one thing I wanted to tell you, Xavier, I showed this this is like the human eye. So the human eye is like this big compared to the iris and the pupil. So this is just like a separate lesson. So then the tear duct comes here, the upper eyelid crops over it, the lower eyelid crops it. So like most of the eyeball is kind of covered up by the eyelid. Now with birds, birds of prey, especially that have like really, keen eyes and can see at night, they have eyeballs that are this size, and then their iris is almost this big, and then the pupil is like that big. So the ratio, again, the human eye looks like this: eyeball, iris, pupil. The ratio is like completely off. So when this eyelid comes into play, the eyelid actually covers up all of the sclera. And so the only thing that's left is the pupil and the iris. Whereas with humans, you have the iris, the pupil, and the white of the eye. And so the main point I was trying to say with you, Xavier, is that your pupil is in the direct center of the iris. So if you go back to our bird, you have the perfect circle of the iris, which is cropped a little bit. There's a little bit on the top by the yellow, a little bit on the bottom. But then the circle that is the gray part, that pupil wants to be in the middle of that. And I think your pupil was like low or something. Like it didn't feel like the pupil was in the dead center of the iris.
My bird's looking at something.
Your bird is what?
My bird is looking at something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what it's looking at?
I had
At a mouse down below.
Ah, huh. Well, that would make that bird really happy.
One of my students last night wanted to make some eyes that were like looking up, and I have this book on a Disney book of Snow White, and Snow White, when there's this one scene where she's like singing and all the birds are flying around and she's like looking up. And it was actually a really good illustration of that particular angle. Anyway, we might be able to go over that sometime. Disney really, especially early Disney, he brought over a ton of really talented artists. And that period where they did Snow White and Robin Hood and Dumbo, Pinocchio, some of those movies are just just full of just incredible drawings and paintings. Okay, so here we go. Now we've got our eye, which is nice. I added a little bit of shade here because just like bears and just like dogs and just like humans, birds have like a little bit of an eyebrow ridge. And you can actually kind of see it right here. There's some like smaller feathers, but it's more important that you acknowledge that, you know, eyes need to be protected, and you need to have almost like a helmet style bone structure around the eye. Just God forbid something hits you in the head or you bump your head into something. And if you look at bird skulls, they do have it. They do have this bridge, the brow bridge up here, and they have a cheekbone that angles down, angles down the side. Let me move this out. But the hard part for us, gentlemen, really is over. So, but what we need to do is develop, I guess I would say like maybe 3 groups of feathers, 3 groups of actively positioned feathers. And the first group is going to be the one that's on the forehead. They start small and they get larger as they go back. The nice thing about these feathers, and I'll just draw one example, is that the center is black. It looks like a knife blade, like a very thin knife blade. And then they have radiating lines out, just like how you would draw a normal feather. So this becomes my code for feathers. So I'm going to use it, time and again, and I'm going to attempt to do theme and variation, meaning I've got the theme of the feather that has this knife blade. Then it's got these radiating lines that come out. And then I'm just going to kind of look for the positioning of where those feathers might be. And now that I know how to draw one, I can draw, 10,000. It just takes a little bit of discipline and, a little bit of, just like a little bit of persistence. And like I said, the black center.
Did someone have a question?
I colored mine in.
Nice.
Best.
Very nice, Jack.
Yeah, I'm glad you colored it. Coloring does make a difference. Yeah, Xavier.
It's 5:02. Never mind.
I have 452.
That's what I have too. I have 452. I'm hoping. I'll just point this out because some of you guys have moved ahead. Good. Like I'm glad you did. We have the grouping of feathers that's above the head that starts small near the beak and gets bigger as it heads back. Then we have this collection that's like kind of near. I'm going to call them. What would I call these feathers? They're like the feathers and the whiskers combined. So they happen around the beak, in between the beak and the eye. They happen on the back side of the, below the eye. And then they happen immediately off of the beak. And then, the feathers from, basically the neck, from those whisker feathers, I guess I'll call them whisker feathers, from those down, then you start getting some really fun ones. Now, Stacy, I don't know where you got this photo, but if there was another picture of the same bird that we're able to zoom out from, it would be awesome. But I think the truth is that every feather, I think, is roughly the same. And I'll do it here. Like you've got a thin feather that's got some, light radiating lines. Then you have mid-tone, mid-sized feathers. And then if you look at the ones down here, I'll just flip it upside down because that's the direction that they're growing. You've got some like deep, dark knife blades, and then some darker radiating lines off of them. So the ones at the top were the whiskers. The ones in the middle were mid-sized. And then the one that I just turned upside down would be large. And you want to almost imagine the growth pattern, like what the direction that it grows off. You can almost imagine on your own head, like my hair here, it grows forward, here it goes there, in the back it grows down. You can kind of like see how these feathers, and you don't even have to draw the outside of the feathers. Like these seem like they're coming up into the right. Then there's another one that's like, seems like they're laying flatter. And then these seem like they're going straight back. So I'm just kind of staggering the placement of these centers. Like back here with the smile, They look like they're heading back as well. I'm thinking aerodynamics. Some of the feathers that transition from the whiskers into the head feathers, these are kind of angling forward. And then below, below this beak, these are all angled down. These seem like they're S curving back. Interesting, very interesting. Yeah, look at those. Massive, dark knife shapes. And once you get into the zone of what they, how they're laid on, like almost like shingles on a roof, you can stagger them and position them and really make it feel natural.
How's everyone doing? Doing all right?
I'm doing good.
I'm gonna take, good.
Yeah, they kind of radiate out like a Christmas tree. Not like a Christmas tree, more like a fern. Not like a fern, excuse me, like a I guess it's like a leaf. It's more just like a feather. I mean, that's just a feather. And you get these little spaces in between where you can't really tell, and they just fill in the zone. You kind of just fill it in using the marks that are consistent with the nature of the feathers. And I'm not saying fudge it, but there's, I mean, if you look in here, I mean, it's like, so, I mean, you're going to copy every single one of those lines. I mean, look at every one of those lines, like there's spaces between the lines. So, it would be easier maybe if we were using like light marks on dark paper or on a gray paper. But at the moment, the piece that we have is, dark marks on white paper. So zoom this out. And that's what we're working with. So we have to figure out a way to make those marks read like a hawk's head. And it doesn't necessarily have to be true, but it has to be useful. It has to tell us the most about the object that we're drawing. It has to tell us the most amount of truth with the materials that we're working with. Because you can't reproduce nature. It's like there's only one creator that does that. We are just distilling nature in all of its infinity and its greatness into a small, humble collection of marks. And it's important to not become so overwhelmed with nature, because it is. I mean, it is overwhelming, and it's like that's just like the premise. So the game is, economically arranging marks on your page so that somebody can know something and see something about this bird that they wouldn't if they hadn't seen your piece. I love these little whiskers near the eye. These very thin feathers. Very thin feathers. If you've ever seen one of these birds in person, any raptor, it's enough to boggle your mind with how beautiful they are. So majestic. So the feathers do a couple things. I mean, they make the bird aerodynamic, so they fly well. I think that they can even be sensitive to air pressure. They're like really sensitive organs. And then I think they also, they're water resistant. I was driving back from New York last week or 2 weeks ago, and it was weird. I saw one bird. It was the same rainstorm. They were probably 5 or 6 miles apart on the highway. One bird looked kind of waterlogged. And I was like, oof, that poor thing is like a little in rough shape. I saw another one that was sitting out fully exposed and, looked as though not a drop was on him. Sorry about that. So I don't know what that is. I don't know if that was one bird was really healthy and the other bird was not, if the one was malnutrition and didn't have like the same kind of grooming and oil that is that these feathers require. It was a fascinating study. But and again, it was on the side of the highway, so I just caught a slight glimpse. But
yeah,
I mean, one guy,
I wonder if one
was wet and looking miserable, and the other guy looked like he was ready for action. What's that, Stace?
I wonder if I was simply wondering if there was a difference in age.
It could have been
that could have
very possible.
Just given a very different look.
So the beak is toned, but it's almost like an agate or like a semi-transparent material, and I'm trying to achieve that. So I've got some very opaque dark pencil marks, and I'm going to try and blend that pigment very quietly, very subtly into the rest of the beak, so that it can be the rest of the beak. And maybe I will use my yellow. I mean, I already introduced the yellow in the eye, so it would be awkward if I didn't introduce the yellow in the other parts of the beak. Graphite and color pencils, guys, really don't mix well. They honestly, it looks great on the screen. It doesn't look as good in person. So if you're going to use colors, try to stick with color pencil. I could have very easily drawn this, these dark marks with a dark gray or a brown pencil, a brown color pencil, would have worked great, or a black color pencil would have been great. The graphite is a metal, and the color pencil is like kind of a waxy pigment, and the metal is gorgeous by itself, but when the waxy pigment and all that chroma comes in, it goes from a beautiful metallic unity to something that looks a little kind of smudgy and gray. And I'm doing it because it's I think it's actually it's going to tell the story of my drawing a little bit better and help with the class. But if I were making like a final art piece, I definitely would not mix these two materials together. And I'm attempting to avoid contact with each other. I'm drawing the pencil marks that I have here. I'm drawing the yellow in between. Cool. It really is pretty.
And it is 5:02.
Yeah, it looks like some guys. Guys, thank you. If you're still on, please, if you want to show us what you got, I would love to see it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop the share real quick.
Bye.
Xavier, can I see?
See what?
Can I see the sketch you made?
The bird?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
That's nice. Anybody else?
Bye.
See you, Xavier.
Thank you, Xavier.
Bye.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
All right, there they go. That's everybody.
There you have it.
What'd you think, Stace?
I thought it was great. What did you think?
Oh dear.
Yeah. What's the matter?
Kristen lit me up. I said it looks like El Capitan in Yosemite, and
Yeah.
it's actually not Yosemite. It's El Capitan is in Yellowstone, and it looks like Half Dome, which is in Yosemite.
Oh, that's funny. Set him straight, Kristen.
Seriously.
Set him straight.
We were going over it. Maddie was editing remember when we did the Goya self-portrait, the pointillist piece?
Yeah.
In the beginning of that, I
do.
in the beginning of that movie, at the beginning of that show, you're in it, Stacey, and I go, "You light up my work life," and you go, "You said thank you." It was so cute, dude. We got it all on video.
I was adorable, huh?
Oh my god, the whole thing was adorbs. Okay, stop recording.